Steelman. This is really the inversion of a very common Catholic argument that we get badly, which is, and by no means are Catholics unique on this, everybody issues with this, we'll say. There's a tendency to take a sort of silly version of the other person's argument. And as much as possible, and this can be very hard to do, especially if it's not a view that you're sympathetic to, or maybe a view you feel like you understand very well, make the best version of the argument. Now, I want to caveat that and say, sometimes people will say, okay, you shouldn't take the popular version. You should take this other version that only like a handful of, nerdy theologians or scholars actually believes in. I don't go that far. I mean, like sometimes you'll find like the theologians just disagree with the popular level. And if they're disagreeing, then I'd say answer both. Those might just be two different arguments. If there's take for example, people who say Constantine founded the Catholic Church. No scholar says that I'm aware of, because it's a pretty ridiculous position. It's hard to Steelman that one. And the Steelman version of it would just be, the church changes and grows over time, or something that is really just a different argument. In those cases, treat them as different arguments. And Steelmanning there might just be recognizing this is a popular level argument. This isn't what the more well-formed Protestants are going to believe. And so it's a way of doing justice to the other person, even if you can't do greater justice to the argument. The model of this is St. Thomas Aquinas. Bertrand Russell, who was an atheist, praises Aquinas and said even if every one of the doctrines in the Summa was mistaken, it would still be an imposing intellectual edifice. Why? Well, because when Aquinas wishes to refute some doctrines, he states it first, often with great force, and almost always with an attempt at fairness. He knows Aristotle well and understands him thoroughly, which cannot be said of any earlier Catholic philosopher. Aquinas is very calm. He collects the strongest objections. He presents them in a way that his opponents would recognize. This is the key. When you're in a conversation, if you can say to the other person, I think your argument is X, and they say, that's it, you've got it, then you're ready to answer it. But if instead you rely on, the name calling and the caricatures and everything else, the other person is going to say, no, I'm not saying these things you're putting in my mouth. And so, of course, I'm not persuaded if you just call me names. I'm not persuaded if you give an intentionally distorted kind of straw man version of my argument. And so as much as possible, try to find the strongest and best way you can present your opponent's argument. And that's probably going to be by asking them for ongoing clarification, because maybe the first time you try to formulate it, they say, that's kind of it, that's not quite it. And then, okay, let's find out a little more. Doing that also, and doing it rigorously, can help to reveal some of the errors in their position that maybe wouldn't have been obvious otherwise. The more you try to get in their shoes, the more you might say, aha, I see where things have gone wrong here.